Welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rise News channel. The zoning arrangement of the 10th Senate has been the major focus this week as senators in the ruling All Progressive Congress are yet to fully support the announcement by the National Working Committee naming Senator Godswill Akpabio as his consensus candidate for Senate presidency. Since the announcement by the APC on Monday, some senator-elect have kicked against it, with the decision by the APC to zone the National Assembly principal officer positions to different zones as well as selecting candidates is causing angst in the polity. How can the party safely navigate through this landmine, and how does this engender the independence of the legislature? So joining us now is Adeyemi Ikuforiji, former three-time Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly. He's a PhD holder in public administration. He's also a lawyer after leaving office. Welcome to the show. At first, why is APC leaving some other zones behind, like the North Central?
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
I don't think APC has left any zone behind in the scheme of things. Already we have offices, shared among the zones. So I don't think there is a single zone that doesn't have one office or the other in the scheme of, within the upper offices of the administration.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Honorable Ikuforiji, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us this morning. I'd like to ask you, I don't know if can you hear me? Can you hear me?
It's breaking, sort of.
Okay, all right. So I'd like to ask you with regards to what the governor of Ondo State, who is also the chairman of the Southwest Progressives Governors Forum, said with regards to it being unjust. You say no zone has been left out. Which position or where has the North Central been put? We have the Northwest, we have the Northeast represented as Vice President-elect. We have the Southwest and Southeast covered, but the North Central have said that they feel marginalized and ignored, especially in these principal positions. Do you think this zoning is unjust? Do you think it's skewed? And do you think there's some zones that have been marginalized, bearing in mind that the North Central doesn't seem to be represented?
Unfortunately, I can't remember the particular office zoned to the North Central, but I know something had been zoned to the North Central. No zone will be left marginalized in the scheme of things. And I know that our party, the APC, is known for equitable distribution of offices. So I don't think North Central will be left alone. That will not be.
Well, currently they are. So the conversation is based on what exists or what subsists currently. Currently, the president is from the Southwest, President-elect. The Vice President-elect from the Northeast. What has been zoned following the National Working Committee meeting is that the Senate President has been zoned to the South-South with, Senator Godswill Akpabio as the anointed candidate. The Deputy Senate President would go to the Northwest. The Speaker of the House of Representatives would go to the Northwest. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives would go to the Southeast. So except there's something that has been discussed in the meeting that hasn't been let out, then this is what the situation is. The North Central does not feature. Is there an update that you'd like to share with us? Have they zoned a position that we are not aware of to the North Central?
Honestly, I cannot tell you exactly what is zoned to the North Central right now because I don't have the list with me, and I really did not believe, and I don't believe that the party will leave the North Central without an office. It's not possible.
Okay, but sir, you keep saying you don't believe. It's a fact. The party has left the North Central out of it. It's not a case for contest. Even an APC governor, Governor Akeredolu, is unhappy with the party. he said the party has done injustice to the North Central and other people that were left behind in all of this. So the party is seen as unjust by one of your party stakeholders, that's Governor Akeredolu. Can you hear me properly, sir? Or do we take a break?
Well, that's the beauty of democracy. Governor Akeredolu has come even to the defense of the zone you are talking about. And like I said, it's unfortunate I have not really mastered the zoning, the offices that are zoned to the different zones, except for the issue of the Senate president, which generated a lot of noise before now. But now, if Governor Akeredolu from the Southwest is already voicing out his opinion and defending the North Central, that speaks volume of the caliber of people we have in APC, and I'm sure the leadership of the party will definitely make necessary corrections where needed.
You say that speaks volume of the caliber of people you have in the APC, but you're not saying that that's a reflection of the injustice being perpetrated in the APC now, which is the bone of contention, because Governor Akeredolu is against your party by saying, why would you leave the North Central out? And in case you say you've not read the zoning, what happened was the South-South was given the Senate presidency. The Northwest got deputy Senate president. The Northwest again now got Speaker of the House of Rep. And the Southeast got deputy speaker. So out of 4 officers, the Northwest got 2. And people are saying, why would the Northwest get 2 when other regions have not even gotten anything? So is this not a reflection of the injustice of your party? That's what Governor Akeredolu is saying. It's not a reflection of, how good Governor Akeredolu is at standing up for justice. Your party is unjust.
Rest assured that any error made so far will be corrected. That I know. And with the President-elect, he is known to be one who will always go for justice. Justice to all. He will fight for those who could not even fight for themselves. So I know that error, if it had been committed, will be corrected.
So you call this an error, right? Can we just say that you think the zoning arrangement is an error?
If what like I told you, I did not actually look at this before this interview, and I didn't know that it was so until I heard from Governor Akeredolu. And I say, if that's the case, yes, it's a mistake and it will be corrected.
Okay, so in terms of corrections, what recommendations would you give to the party? And beyond that, perhaps the question I'd like to ask you is, should the party zone candidates or field candidates to a particular position, not just zoning to a particular geopolitical zone, but actually picking people to sit in those offices in terms of how their members should vote? Do you think it's fairer to just zone it and let people who are interested jostle for that position? Or do you think that in the interest of party supremacy, they actually are very specific? That's one question. And of course, the second part of the question is, what would be your recommendation to correct what has been described as an injustice?
Well, zoning is already part of us. And for justice to prevail and for every part of the country to feel carried along, zoning will always be there. So it is right and proper that zoning takes place, and that's what the party has done to the best of my knowledge. However, the issue of picking a particular candidate, it's all about politics, and it's all about even the rules. Look, in the House, there are rules. The party can zone to a particular zone, and zone an office to a particular zone. But if in that zone, if there are people who are qualified and others who are not qualified, all jostling for the seat, it is normal that the party will come into it. In this case, the seat of the President of the Senate, the rules of the House that says, look, these people, people who are qualified are these, and these ones will not be qualified. For example, there is the issue of who has been in the House before. You cannot come as a greyhound and say you want to be the Senate president. That disqualifies some people, some members-elect from the South. I mean, I give you an example. Our former chairman, former Governor Adams Oshiomhole, for example, is a newly elected senator. He cannot be Senate president by the rules of the House. But Akpabio has been there. So he is qualified to be the Senate president. And as far as I know, I think from the South, the one who has really shown interest and has really put in for that office is Akpabio. So if the party says, okay, Akpabio is the man here, I don't think it's about handpicking. It's about who and who is qualified and who has come forward for the office. Akpabio is the main visible person from that zone and who also is qualified to be the Senate president this time.
Okay, so why do we pin you? At first, 1 minute ago, you said this arrangement is, if it's a mistake, it's going to be rectified. But I've got news flash for you, sir. The news flash is that it is the president-elect that when he came back, he prevailed over this arrangement that was executed by National Working Committee. So would you say the president-elect made a mistake? Because he's aware of this. This was part of the matters he came back to settle. So are you going to say that the president-elect made this mistake?
My brother, the president-elect is a human being. He's a working horse, and he's a man who spends all his time, working on the problems of the people. But that does not mean he cannot make a mistake. And if it's a mistake, it will be corrected. That's all I know. And I know that of him. If he makes any mistake, he's one who listens, he's a Democrat, and he's one who hears out the opponents and the opposition. And then he makes necessary correction. That's what I have on that.
All right. Well, Honorable Ikuforiji, you yourself have been a member of the legislature, albeit at state level, but I'm sure that you come bearing a lot of experience. In terms of the 10th Assembly, what should be priority areas? Are there lessons to be learned from the 9th Assembly? And how do you think they can best serve the Nigerian people?
Well, there is always lessons to be learned from the past assemblies. And the 10th Assembly is not going to be any exception. A lot of things have happened. A lot of work in progress are still there for the 10th Assembly to look into and to work on. And I think this time, the Assembly is also lucky to have a president who himself is a legislator. So, and from my own first-class knowledge of him, he respects the legislature a lot. He works harmoniously with us when he was governor and I was speaker. And I don't expect anything less than that from him this time around. Don't forget, he was also a senator.
Okay, let's talk about these things, as regards rubber stamp and this friction between executive and legislature. You had your own fair share. From your experience, what have you learned? How can we navigate through this friction? Because it looks as though the executive, they want the National Assembly to be rubber stamp, to do all their bidding. And if they don't do their bidding, in some cases, there are cases of EFCC hung all over their neck, and with that, they can use to manipulate them. You've got experiences. Can you just tell us how we can navigate and ensure that this 10th Assembly is not a rubber stamp?
Let me say this once again. The new executive, the administration coming in, is to be led by a legislator himself, the Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who represented Lagos West in the Senate. And I want to tell you, from my own knowledge of him, and I was his speaker in his second term in office, I tell you, he has a lot of respect for the first arm of government, and that is the legislation. He has a lot of respect for it. In the days that he was governor and I was speaker, if there is any difference between us, he calls us to a round table. We sit on the round table to discuss the issues, and we settle amicably. I'll give you an example. The issue of the self-accounting for the legislation, Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed it to law as far back as year 2000, when he was barely a year in office, when Senator Mamura, my predecessor in office, was the Speaker of Lagos State House of Assembly. That time, the account of the house was, of the government of Lagos was always in red. In fact, to pay salary, they sometimes have to borrow money. But he agreed when the house came up and said, no, we want to have a self-accounting. He agreed with them that that's the right thing to do, but please, I sign it to law, but let's discuss it. For now, what we do is this. Let's agree that on a monthly basis, based on what we have, the house gets its own share for the running of the house until the government becomes self-sufficient and, is able to take care of the self-accounting of the house without trouble. And that's the way it was until I became speaker, and I saw that, okay, now the government was buoyant enough to allocate whatever is due to the house on a monthly basis. So if this man can do this in year 2000, barely a year into the present democratic dispensation, you can imagine what will happen. And throughout the period, I repeat, he does not try to do anything against the house or, try to disobey or disrespect the house. That is the man that is to be the president of Nigeria. So you can rest assured he's not going to mess around with the legislation. Rather, he's going to encourage the legislature to do what is right and what is proper for the nation.
All right, thank you. I still want to go a bit further with that question, especially because you talked about harmonious working between the President-elect and the House. And this conversation around rubber stamping. Yes, I hear you in terms of the fact that you were able to synergize with him as governor, and so it demonstrates the fact that there would also be harmonious working. But in regard to that, there's a thin line between working in partnership and interference. How do we prevent that? Because for a strong Senate, they must be able to hold the executive to account. And if they are working, side by side or very chummy, that, obviously would become very difficult to do. And that's what a number of people are wondering, especially with the fact that he had a huge role to play in deciding who the principal officers of the House would be. How will they be able to work efficiently if he has such influence on the House?
Well, this is breaking. I couldn't hear you well, but I think I can get the gist of what your question is. And I want to repeat myself. Look, we are lucky as Nigerians today to have the president-elect to be the president of Nigeria come May 29, 2023. The legislature, the judiciary, I can assure you, they are better off for it. they will be better off for it. This man believes in the democratic norms as they are. He does not attempt to use his, what I call the financial power of the executive to muzzle the legislature or the judiciary. Under him in Lagos, the legislature thrived. Lagos House became the one that is head and shoulder above others in the federation. In fact, we then made even laws that the National Assembly was struggling to make. We made them in Lagos, like the Information Bill, the Freedom of Information Bill. While they were still battling with it in Abuja, we already got it settled in Lagos. The criminal code thing, we revised our own in Lagos before the National Assembly, and so many others. This man encourages the legislature to do his bids, and he helps in every way that he can. And even after he left office, don't forget, the time I was speaker, he was actually the de facto head of the party, and he was the governor. So he had all it takes to actually do and undo with the legislation. But I don't think there is any house. In fact, the National Assembly itself was not as free as Lagos House was under Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So I really don't, I want to reassure you and every Nigerian who cares to listen to this, that in terms of deepening democratic practices, Bola Ahmed Tinubu will definitely help Nigeria and Nigerians. We are going to get a step ahead of others as far as democracy is concerned. You look at even the judiciary in Lagos, see what he did to uplift the Lagos judiciary before the federal even thought of its own. So this same man will do this same thing that we are talking about.
Okay.
Rest assured, there is nothing like the legislation becoming rubber stamp or anything.
Okay, but
check it. But Lagos House of Assembly has never been a rubber stamp.
But a lot of people would disagree with you, sir. In fact, based on a couple of decisions taken by the Lagos House of Assembly while you were there, the Lagos Assembly was even a very clear definition of a rubber stamp. Take, for instance, they said contentious issues like, signing in pensions for governors and things like that. That pretty much bills that were brought, before the House of Assembly, it was an allusion. So when you are saying that it was not a rubber stamp based on the other things you people did, but there was a very smooth symbiotic relationship.
That my brother, if we decided that our governor deserves pension, that he deserves to have to have himself taken care of, I don't think that has to do with rubber stamp. He's not the one who forced us to do it. We did it on our own free will. And I'll tell you what Nigeria didn't know about that bill today. Look, when I was speaker, there was a day when one of the leaders of our party in the state called on me and told me an experience he had over the weekend, that he was at a function and late Governor Lateef Jakande was at that function. And at that function, when Jakande was leaving, he decided to see Alhaji Jakande to his car. Believe you me, this is not a story that I'm happy to say out clearly, in the open. But then I have to say it for you to understand some of the things we did. When this man, the man is Honorable Oshun, Honorable Wale Oshun. He was the former chief whip of the House of Reps. He called me and told me the story, that he got to Alhaji Jakande's car and tried to open the door for him to go in, but the driver beckoned to Honorable Oshun not to do that because the car will not start. And Alhaji Jakande, look, I'm old enough to know what Alhaji Jakande did for us in Lagos. I wept when he told me the story, that they had to push Alhaji Jakande's car before Alhaji Jakande could go in. I mean, for all Jakande did for us in Lagos, for all that he did, even for future generations, how can such a man be out of office and will not have a good car? That was what led me and my group and my team, the House of the 39 others, to actually make the bill. Yeah, with benefit of insight and with what is going on around the nation, yeah, we may have a rethink about it. But as at that time, I was so convinced it wasn't Bola Ahmed Tinubu that forced me or forced my members to pass that bill. And don't forget, I did not even include the speaker in that bill because I did not see the need for it. But I had to do it because of that experience that I learned from an elder.
With due respect, sir, a lot of people say, particularly that this argument is false equivalence. Because you can't compare an Alhaji Jakande that has always lived an austere life. That Alhaji Jakande that we all remember, that even when he was governor, preferred to drive his old Toyota car by himself, and lived a very austere life. You can't
Toyota Crown.
You can't compare him with Bola Ahmed Tinubu that was already a very rich man even before he left government. And a lot of people said that pension pay package was bogus.
I think you didn't get my argument.
Yes.
My argument was very straightforward. Look, if this happened to Alhaji Jakande, who served us with all that he had, who, like you said, even brought his personal car to the office and used it. When the car, got worn out, he bought another Toyota Crown to use. If he now could be an ex-governor and is not taken care of, I think it was wrong. Just like nobody is taking care of me today. And I served as Speaker of the House for 10 years. We made good laws for the people of Lagos. I put everything in for the people of Lagos. But I'm not complaining, but I'm saying the reason why we made that law was because of that experience. That look, we must take care of those who served us. But unfortunately, look, if you decide to close your eyes because a bad man is passing, you will not know when a good man passes. It doesn't really matter whether the governor is now a good governor or not a good governor, because the laws cannot be made with exceptions. Oh, okay, if this governor does this, then you do this. No, we can only make a law to serve former governors, and that's what we did.
All right, Honorable Ikuforiji, I'm glad that you've actually brought up this matter of the Public Office Holder Payment of Pension Law number 11, Official Gazette of 2007, which even at that time and today is still very contentious. And bearing in mind the rationale for this law that you enacted, I'd like you to say that the compensation you then decided to give to the former governors include houses of their choice in Lagos State and Abuja, who have served 2 consecutive terms. They would have 6 new cars every 3 years to compensate for the 1 car that you saw with Alhaji Lateef Jakande. You talked about 100% basic salary. I mean, it was so large that in 2021, the House had to slash the benefits by 50% in light of the economic reality of Lagosians. Was that reflective of the ordinary man on the street, whereby there was this large pension or this very generous pension provision made for ex-governors when the ordinary man on the street could not afford to eat? Was that fair? And then, in saying that, you yourself have admitted that despite not having a generous pension like that, I mean, you look very well, sir. You've been able to fare very well without that for, post the years that you served as Speaker. Did you think it was very necessary to have passed that 2 weeks to the end of their tenure, making a case for a rubber stamp assembly and some decisions or some laws that could be passed when this is the situation?
Well, thank you very much. Let me repeat myself. We did not make law for the particular governor in office as at the time we made the law. We made the law for all governors of Lagos State. And aside from the story of Alhaji Jakonde that I told you, I, as a person, one of the things I feel very bad about the most is the fact that we have become people who are not grateful for whatever good is done to them. That's the honest truth about us. As a people, the way Nigerians treat their past leaders at whatever capacity, past office holders, whether they are even civil servants or public servants, I think we're not doing well at all. And some of these things needs to change. This issue of the compensations for former governors and former deputy governors, we are exaggerating it. It was a law made at a particular point in time. If you come up and tell us the exact salary of the governor as at the time that that law was made, I mean, it's a very small thing. You are just exaggerating it. The honest truth is the law is there and the law is not cast in gold. If there is need to make amendment to the law, current houses should do so. If we now get to a point where that law becomes obsolete and we don't need it, we need to discard of it, the current house should do so. We should not exaggerate this. Look, when people serve and you don't appreciate them, don't blame people who are there who now mess up the place by taking care of themselves before taking care of others. I think if we know that our leaders have taken care of us, we should make provision to take care of them. That's the way I see it.
Oh, so that means you obviously mean that a house in Lagos and Abuja in choice area and 6 cars every 3 years is not a big deal. Another bill a lot of people are saying is reflective of the rubber stamp nature of Lagos House of Assembly was a bill, to support a company as regards tax collection, Alpha Beta. What would you say about that? Because these are the bills people are looking at and are saying that the Lagos State, they've looked at pension, they looked at many other bills. If we start addressing all those bills, we will not finish here today. That they say is an indication that is a rubber stamp. Okay. What would you say about the Alpha Beta issue?
Let me, my brother, let me just take you, I give you an answer to that. Look, the bill that the House passes to ask the executive to engage tax collectors for the government of Lagos. What has been the result? The result has been that the income, the IGR of Lagos State had moved from 600 million naira in 1999 to over 50 billion naira today. Why don't you look at, the cost and the result? The result has been encouraging, and from there, many other states have even copied it, and some of them are coming up with the IGR. This issue of a particular company or not a company does not come into effect. What the House did was to pass a law to say, okay, the government, the executive can do this in order to show up the revenue of the state government. And that was it. If a particular company came in and was able to get that contract and was able to do what is right, was able to increase the volume of the IGR to more than 10, 20, 40 times, for God's sake.
So were you saying that the LIRS was incompetent? Were you saying that the LIRS was incompetent? And you're saying that, we should look at what is happening as regards the return.
You have forgotten the fact that LIRS was actually created out of that. It was because of that LIRS was created.
When you hear
LIRS was not there before Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
When you hear things like 150 billion has been taken in commission by that same company, how does that make you feel? 10% for transactions. So are you saying that the state couldn't have collected the taxes alone, that needed a certain company?
Well, Nigerians would like to hammer on whatever is not to our advantage, whatever is to the advantage of the others. I am into real estate now, and I know that those who call themselves estate agents, whatever, they collect as much as 10%. 10% on the single transaction. Somebody who did not even put in 1 naira into it, but because he says he's the one who brought the customer, or the customer comes through him, he wants to collect 10% of the fund. So what is the big deal about 10% for somebody who helped to show up our revenue base?
Okay, thank you so much, Mr.
If the present house fees is too high, let the house go into it and do the needful. And in any case, the public is also free to get in touch with the house, to ask the house to look into this, and I can assure you the house will look into it properly.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you for your time.